Okay, good evening all. Welcome to the BATC net. That's working, good. I'll just turn all these audios down so I don't get confused. Very good to see a good number on this evening. Just one important parish notice before we start. We're still looking for somebody to run the stream for next week, as Noel is unavailable. So looking for volunteers to run the streamer of the net for next week. If somebody could come up on the chat please and volunteer to do that, that'd be great. I'll save the rest of my news for next time round and pass transmission to Mike. No, sorry, I hadn't turned the power up. There we go. Might get a few more people in now. G0MJW and the net G8GKQ.
Okay, just let it sync up, hopefully. Oh, it's working for once. Just going to show you this, which is the remarkable software that Dave has written for the Pi. That's running on the Pi 3. It's working perfectly, very good. Showing my own picture, which isn't particularly useful, so I'll go back to a picture of myself, say hello. And I've not got really very much news, so I'm just going to show a few things very, very quickly. So I'll get the other camera and go back to that and start. Now, you may remember this power supply, the 53 volt one. Well, with the purchase and construction of this little device here, which is an Arduino Nano and a CAN bus controller, I've managed now to get that onto the right voltage. It's now 48 volts at startup, and I can see all sorts of useful information out of the Altec power supply with that thing. So that's particularly useful. That's what it looks like for those who weren't looking last week. On the advice of, I think, M0DTS or somebody, I acquired one of these things. I don't know if you've seen these before, but it's basically a 5 volt power supply, almost the same as a what do you call them? One of those things for charging the phones anyway, off a battery. But it's not quite the same as that because it's got a bit more control, and it gives 5 volts and it gives 3 volts, and it's got a much better ability to give out power. Anyway, it's a UPS, and particularly handy using a couple of 18650 cells to drive a Raspberry Pi. So that's going to go onto my ground station. This thing has of course arrived now. I don't know how many of you got these, but they're working very well. Nano VNA goes up to 4.4 gigahertz or thereabouts. So I don't know if anybody needs a predecessor to the Nano VNA, but I've got the old one. It's not that old, but it's been well and truly superseded by the new one. It's so much better. And if anyone's interested in doing work with certain chips and things, this lot's turned up this weekend, and it's basically PCBs, which are very, very cheap. You get a whole set of these things. Get it on into the picture. Maybe even the right way up. For mounting surface mount devices on normal through-hole boards, basically a breakout board for some very, very small components, and there's all sorts of them in these bags, and they're only a few quid from Alibaba. So anyway, that's enough from me. I'm not quite sure who is the next. I think it's G8KOE. G8KOE from G0MJW.
Right, I think we're there. Good. Yep. Hello everyone. Make sure yep, let's turn the sound so it doesn't confuse me. Yeah, I had a confusing couple of weeks really, as Dave was saying, sort of on the forum asking silly questions and not understanding. I made an alteration to the DC supply, to the PA that's under the dish, and then everything seemed to stop working properly. The transmitter didn't seem to want to work, the receiver wouldn't work, and anyway, to cut a long story short, ended up changing the USB lead and the network lead on the ports down to the obviously the LimeSDR hub as such. Replacing both of those, then got the transmit working, which was a relief. But every time I keyed up, you got the sound of the USB when it makes a connection when you plug something in, and the receiver would lock up. So I went around and ever decreasing, stripping the shack to pieces. I've got a number of computers under the bench effectively. I haven't fully got to the bottom of it, but every time I keyed up you could see a pulse on the screen as though there was a potential difference somewhere. But I've put another hub in line at the moment with the receiver USB, which has cured that for the moment, so it's something else to look into. The other thing I've been playing with is this little beastie, which is maybe simple to others, but I needed something to control the PA. So it's an Arduino, etc, etc. It's F6 AAM's software that's in it, which gives me that sort of display. The only slight sort of hiccup I've got, and I'm not capable at the moment of correcting it, is that a lot of the announcements and things were in French, but the translation going on in the browser works quite well. I must admit it's quite useful. You can obviously measure the volts and the current. Probably everyone else has built one, but it was pleasing for me when it actually came together and worked. So that's really what I've been doing. It's pleasing to have the station basically back together and going. So you know, if anyone's got a English version of the program, I wouldn't say no to it. But I look at it and it's in a different language to me. It's probably very simple to correct, but getting too old, I think. Anyway, that's enough waffle from me. I think it was G0DQH, I think, follows on from me. I think so. Let's go back to me anyway and finish with a picture of me, which is probably the easiest answer, but I'll try and not get as confused there, Dave, as I do. You have to make allowances for these old people. Right, let's pass it over to Jim.
Okay, good evening everyone. Just turn my volume down, I don't want to hear myself coming back from the satellite. After last week's effort, this week hopefully everything will go smoothly. The new PA is now installed, and it's now situated in the garage, and there's 14 meters of quite thick coax actually run into the dish now. The original PA I'm going to offer for sale is a Spectrian 75 watts. And the problems I've been getting is RF being received on the LNB, and in some cases it's just wiped my picture out. I only get it when I try to receive myself, so it's been a real problem. So it's certainly better than it was, but we're getting there. John G7JTT, and I did some tests yesterday evening, and it looks very much as if it's RF getting in either to the LNB or the cable going to the LNB. But we've got some filters coming, and they should be here hopefully either this weekend or next week. Good evening to you, Barry, down there in Barnstable. You commented the other week on my poor picture, so I'm going to put the other one on if I can get up there. Here we go. So we now have an HD webcam, and much better than the old unit that I had, which was left over from the old analog days. So anyway, this is what we've done. I've actually bought the PA in from France. I would have built it, but I would have had to have milled out the bit for the FET, and I really didn't feel like doing that. So that's the new PA, and that's been installed in a Lorenz heatsink that came out of a solar inverter. There's two fans on the right hand side that blow air in, and one on the other side to take it out, and a big fan on top of the PA. It doesn't even get warm. I'm looking at the temperature now, and it's just under 20 degrees, so I'm quite pleased about that. So there's the dish, the original picture of the dish, and now I can get it. There we go. The new cable running to the dish, which you can see, and next is a close-up of the front of the dish. And what I've done, I've drilled holes and I passed the cables through the dish, rather than roll them down over the front of the dish. And also a close-up that shows precisely what I've done there. And again, a close-up of the potty, and an even closer view. So there we are, and hopefully it's behaving itself tonight, which is good. Certainly wasn't last week, but there you go. Okay, that's it from me, and I'll pass it back to HB9DUG, I believe, after me. And I can find it. When you want to find something, you can't, can you? There we are. Give you a view of the new Corsan. My daughter actually did this for me. I don't claim anything for doing it. She did all that for me. Okay, back to the next person, from G0DQH in Chandlersford, 5 miles north of the city of Southampton.
Okay, good evening everybody. I'm very pleased to be back. These 2 last weeks I've been busy by my public work as the mayor of my village. I finished now after, 30 years servicing my community and more than 10 years as the mayor, and I've ended my mandate this last Wednesday. So now I will be again a bit more free to play around and develop some of project I have with a few other friends. So tonight I do not have much to say. Maybe on the second turn I will just tell you a little bit what we are planning to do with my friends from the French part, looking at some amplifier. Okay, so I will pass to M0 Delta Tango Sierra just after me, and thank you very much for this BITC net, which is a nice thing to do every week.
Right, good evening everybody. I think this is working. Yeah, it seems okay. Let's just double check. Always make sure. You never know. Right, there we go. Yep, all good. So, yeah, evening everybody. Seems like there's a lot on the list tonight, so we'll make it pretty short. Not really got a lot to talk about, to be honest. Seems to have been not a very productive week for some reason. I don't know why that is, but I've got a few projects on the go at the same time, but nothing to show of it yet. So 122 gigs, I'll mention that. Been doing a bit of work on that. Powered both the units up this week. One of them wasn't working. I couldn't receive one on the other. Basically, that turned out to be what I'd done is I left the two units powered up on my power supply. One of them power supplies was trickle charging a little battery at the same time, and I forgot to disconnect the battery, so I left both units on. Switched everything off in the shack. The battery was still powering one of the 122 gig units, and as it was the battery discharge, something happened and it corrupted the flash inside the PIC chip, which controls the module. So, long story short, had to reflash it with the code, and that came up. So it's possibly the EEPROM that got corrupted, but if it happens again, I'll read it back and try and figure out what's happened. But anyway, back in action. Did a little test down the yard here, about 50 meters, and it's absolutely colossal signal with just the transmitter unit at one end and a 35 centimeter channel master dish at the other, which is well, let me just turn the camera around there. So that's the arrangement on that I was using on receive, with the box at the front. The box on the bottom is the 134 gigs, which I'm not using at the moment. So yeah, colossal signal at 50 meters, like really strong. So possibly going to do a test tomorrow at 1 kilometre and see if I can pick up the beacon for myself. Give that a go. Maybe, or that might be next week, we'll see. There's one question for Mike, and I wondered whether once you've set the voltage on that power supply, does it remember it? I'm guessing it has, because your unit wasn't actually wired into the power supply, so that was the only question really. And your garden's looking really green. Must have been raining a lot down there. But there we go. So I don't think I have a lot else to add really. We'll come back on the next over and see if there's anything else. So next it goes round to G4HIZ. Yeah, I got that, Mike. Okay. Yep, G4HIZ, M0DTS on QO100 BATC net.
Good evening everybody, G4HIZ on the VATC net. For those who don't know, QTH Maidstone, located about 50 kilometres southeast from London. Weather looking a bit iffy tonight out there. I don't know if we're going to have some rain. Had a little bit today, started off nice and bright, but certainly went a bit dull afterwards. So I've been busy for the last couple of weeks, working unfortunately, but having said that, I've put some spare time into the 5.7 gig system, which you can see behind me, and finished that off. So it produces a good 10 watts plus at the feed, and also on the receive side I've got a 2-stage LNA, and done some tests down the garden, looking at the IF at 430 megs on SDR. So if anyone wants to do a 5.7 gig test, terrestrial that is obviously, then I'll be happy to do so. Okay, I've got the development software running on the second receiver, and it works very well, I think. Actually, it seems to work better than the dare I say it, on the mini tuner. Having said that though, when it hangs up on the beacon, it really does hang the system, and I have to power down. It won't let me reboot, won't let me do anything, so I have to power down to get out of that. Anyway, next time round I'll show you the insides of my 5.7 gig transverter. So G4HIZ and the BATC net, passing it round to next on the list, and I'm just having a look. And that is John, G7JTT.
Right, hopefully that's working. Let's make sure it sounds done. Yep. Right, evening all. Not too much done this end, I'm afraid. As always, work seems to be taking over. I'm hoping this is going to stay stable. The sooner I can get away from Windows, the better. Done nothing to it, and it's running at 89% CPU and is ready to fall over at any point. The other thing that appears to have happened again is that my power's dropped again, so I will have to yeah, sorry, as best I can do, Mike. I don't know what's happened. Well, I do know what's happened, but I don't know how to stop it. I think with the wind and everything else we've had, there's movement in the cable, and it keeps fracturing the little bit of semi-rigid. So it's a bit of a pain. A silly thing happened in the week, totally non-related to radio, but I got out of my van at work, felt something bite me on my leg underneath my shorts. Anyway, sort of knocked down to sort of try and brush off whatever it was. Didn't see it, but didn't think much of it. Later on that day, my leg's swollen, and I've now got probably about a 5 or 6 inch welt, whatever you want to call them. It looks as if I got bitten by a blooming horsefly. So yeah, that's a bit of a pain. And I'm still waiting on parts to finish off my portable kit. I suspect some of them are coming from China, even though it's supposed to have come from the UK. And I'm just getting fed up with it now. It's taking too long to get bits from anywhere now. But anyway, that's that. And as a few people seem to be struggling, I'd better pass it around to, I should always remember this, shouldn't I? G8GTZ. Right, round to you, Noel.
Yeah. Getting on there, isn't it? Anyway, yes. You could see something around. What's going on here? Nothing on the instruction wise, but interesting bits and
team when we get back from holiday. Looking to see if I can utilise this. Those of you who went to Newark may have bought these a couple of years ago. A wide band 100 watt power amplifier. As it says there, 20 to 520 megs, 100 watts. Battery 3 volts. I'm scheming where I can use that. I need to break that into the system. I can use it to do 50 megs, 70 megs, 146 and 77s, which would reduce some of the famous interconnects that were going on. When I go audible, yes, and yeah, megs. So yeah, scheming how that can fit the system. Now the power of the portable system is up to 255 most 2 batteries, and the way I primarily use them is by putting them into a 24 to 12 volt converter. Because I've recently got 24 volts in the shack, in the portable shack, so wondering how that can work. I just don't know if everyone puts out. The other thing is the other thing here is there's a nice little bit. This will probably have to wait till I drink it, but we have there a R4 and a heatsink case and an SD card. And those of you who are thinking about R4s, hopefully you'll need one of these, which is micro HDMI, the normal HDMI. So that's the ride, the components of the ride. Sitting there, watching to when I get back. So yeah, there we go. That's pretty much what's going on here. I've got one interesting conundrum I'm trying to cure. Actually, not. It's sort of really so we'll just mention it. But in the car, we're having terrible radio problems. I look on the internet to see if it's a problem. And it turns out everybody says it's the USB charger for iPhones. So the white one here, which I use it, not really you can tell. And the crack coming off there is horrendous. I'll try a next one to it. If I ring in the car, I can ring on the lead between it and the iPhone to see to kill much. But it really deafens the car radio. I found another 5 volt supply, which was this one. That's opened it up. It's got a linear regulator in it. But the iPhone doesn't know about it, even though it's got 5 volts coming out of it. The iPhone says it's value accessory and doesn't charge. So that's the conundrum of the week. But in 12 volts, sorry, it will charge quicker. It might go back. Yes. So I don't know if anybody's got any intelligent thought on that. Why the linear regulator would work. I thought that was the only thing. As an exception, try and measure it. So it's really related because the crack producers that white one. Yeah, I did think about that. I did think about that. I knew I was myself open to a load of abuse which I've just got now. Normally coming at the other end, yeah, I thought about that. I'm going to try schemes to see if I can put a ferrite around the actual wire behind the dashboard. That's easier to do. Because people often did say that looking for constructive comments. The only one I got, the only one I really got from was from Rob. Yes, it does. It's very clear, which is nice. It can be anyway. For me, who's it goes to next? I think it goes to Jules. So you got G0 in ZOG.
And up it comes. Let's give it some light. Right, turn my audio down so I'm not listening to myself because the delay really confuses me. Right, G0NZO, I'm here. It's working. The Ethernet has stayed up. Using a Pluto at the moment, and I was finding that the on-the-go LAN adapter was I'd have to keep plugging in and plugging out. Eventually I'd get it to catch, and I'd be lucky if I got a few minutes out of it. It might not even last long enough to get back down to the house to try and talk to it. All the radio RF stuff is in the shed, and I'm working from the house, so yeah. Paul says D7, nice. I'm received myself D3 at the moment, 6.6 dB, but that's because the receive dish is I think it's a 60 SEMS offset, so I tend to find anybody that's about a dB below the beacon, and I'm starting to lose them. So Jen was absolutely right on the limit. I was just about getting bits of decode from her. Anyway, Paul put me onto the somebody's forum item about linking the grounds between the USB side and the processor side of the Pluto, because apparently if you get a bit of noise across the grounds it bounces, and the on-the-go thing sees the connection and disconnection of the LAN, and that caused it to reassociate the device. So I fixed that. Also went straight into the board with 5 volts. Unfortunately, which stopped me getting on last week, the 5 volts, I'd put the wrong side of a switching IC, and it meant that the 5 volts couldn't get back through to be switched to the on-the-go USB, the data USB. So I've just bypassed it with a bit of wire, and it's permanently powered now. But it works. It's here. I can see picture. So there you go. I'm still on the phone, using a Samsung phone, Android, with a I think it's called Larix. I think it's Larix Broadcaster. Just one of these little streaming applications. It seems to be working quite reasonably. Although I can see I've got the phone propped up against the desk, got a mirror propped up behind it so I can see the screen, and I can see it constantly auto-focusing in and out, so I apologise that you're suffering it. What have I got in the way of efficiency? 50, 58, 60, 70 odd %. So well, at least I'm driving it with a decent data rate now. And by the look of it, I'm a couple of dBs over the beacon, which is a little bit naughty, but I haven't got any adjustment yet. Everything's just lashed up, so it's whatever levels the came at the Pluto and went into the little Chinese mimic amplifier, and then into a PA still on loan from Paul, M0EYT. So I will get my own setup at some point. I've got an identical PA, but his one was already set up with fans on it and some switching and a power connector, so that's what I'm using still. And I guess about 5 watts maybe into the dish. Well, 5 watts out the PA, and a bit of Heliax 450 Heliax, and then into one of the potty patches, and that's on a 3 meter prime mesh dish, which came off Mike. When would this have been? November time? Must be November. So it took me a little bit of time to get it up and working, and then get the RF into the damn thing, but we're there. Right, I'll pass it around, and I think Paul is next. And Paul's just told me that you can vary the power from the Pluto. I've not played Pluto Control Panel. I'm assuming is another program which I've not seen yet. So I'll dig for that. Right, I'll pass.
Okay, I see myself shoot up there. I don't quite know what happened, but something on the preset decided to take me back to a different configuration. So I'm getting myself back on that computer, but not the other one. So anyway, won't worry about that. Yeah, I gather that I probably am on. Let's just see why things aren't working here. Copy frequency found. Perhaps that might work as far as that one is concerned. It has in the past. Things are lighting up, and there we go. I'm hearing my voice back, so we'll get that on mute. Okay, good evening all, and nice to see everybody on and hear what's going on as far as the net is concerned. It all leaves me a little bit floating around in the background as to whether I do this or whether I do that. Even to what I put in earlier on, which was different, and that's probably why things were slightly different when I'd stored the preset. Can't understand why that was, but we're getting a reasonable signal out, I think. I'm getting myself back in a D4, which I can't grumble about, I suppose. And I wonder why the symbol rate has been changed. It was originally 500, Noel, or Dave, whoever organises it, Dave I think, and now it's 333, and the FEC was recommended on a half, and now I see that the other guys are on 2/3, so I've changed mine to that, I hope, yes. So that's that. And a question for Dave, as far as cameras are concerned. The 920 obviously, which isn't the one I'm using at the moment, the 920 is somewhere, oh it's over there, and works extremely well. But I've got a 910, and I do seem to remember that a 910 was listed, Dave, as being a camera which was suitable. So whether that was an earlier update or whatever, perhaps you'll give some information on that. It's recognised as far as the computer is concerned, or as far as the Portsdown is concerned. If I go in and look at it, and it's there, perfectly okay, but it won't react on transmit. I see it's got a different ID. It's there, it's seen, but it's got a different ID to the 920. Anyway, I'm rambling on about that. You obviously know the answer, Dave, and you'll tell me a little bit later on, or email me, or put it on the information for everybody to take in the bits and pieces. What else have we got? Oh, Jen, yes, 5 gigs. Right, okay. If you're going to have an experiment on 5 gigs later on, as you can probably see in the background there, I've got a transmit and receive 5 gig antenna. It's not quite set up at the moment, so we'll have to give that a miss for the time being, even if I did climb up on a big mountain. So wish you all the best as far as that's concerned. And what's the other thing? Oh yes, as far as a test cards are concerned, I've been investigating something which was on one of the bits and pieces that were about, and so I've invested in a PIC Kit 4, which is, I don't think I probably needed to, as was recommended on analysing that particular picture, which has got a long number and is somewhere there written over. So that's something I'm experimenting with MP Labs. If anybody else has experimented with MP Labs, they'll know it's a real brainstormer. So I don't know quite why they wanted to do it as far as that was concerned. My programmer that I've got here, which you'll see in a minute for a test card and can be edited, is super, but it can't be put on to anybody else because it uses one of these strange chips in the middle. I can't move that camera, so I can't show you where it is. And if I pick it up, it probably won't work when I go over. Right, okay, I'm rambling on as usual, so we'll pass it on to the next fella, which I don't see who it is, and he probably knows who it is, and let's say 7.3 for now. And I still have audio, even with a test card. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that wonderful?
Brilliant. Right, change of view from this end, from GKQ. I wanted to show you where we've got to on the ride ride receiver. You'll see the big HD screen on my left. It does have one fault in it. That's not a software fault. It's a cracked glass, which is why I've got the screen. It was given to me. But anyway, this is the ride receiver. I've been really impressed this evening. I haven't touched it. I just put it on frequency, told it 333 kilosymbols, and just haven't needed to touch it. Everybody's picture and sound has come straight up on it. So Tim, if you're watching, you've done a really great job. Did you break it? Did I break what? No, I didn't break the screen. I'm just going to put another dB of power on. Right, there we go. Right, so what does the ride do? Quite simple. You can bring up a menu like that. Here you can select the frequency, enter the frequency there. Next one down is symbol rate. So that's on 333. The other entries there are LNB polarity, input port, and some test entries that we're working on, but basically it'll be a menu on a remote control, and it'll be programmable to use more or less any remote control. The thing we're battling with at the moment is how we get all the remote control codes in so people don't have to do that, but that will come. The Pi 4 that's running it is in this box underneath it, and it's just running on the standard mini tuner. But I haven't touched it at all this evening, and it's just played everybody. So it's a goer. We just need to sort out some bits on the user interface, and it's really good. So that's been the major activity the last couple of days. Before that, I was working on a new release for the Portstown that both Mike and Jen have mentioned. It does crash on receive occasionally, and that's one thing I'm battling with at the moment. I don't know why. VLC just causes a kernel panic. The other thing this week, CQTV, we've got that out the door. Quite a bit of work there, thanks to Frank and the team for all the work they did on that. And lastly, I will repeat my request for anybody who could stream next week's net, because Noel is unable to do so. So please contact me or Noel if you're able to do that. Great. I've seen Paul M0EYT pop up on the chat. I don't know if he wants to transmit. Tony C910, I don't think it's supported. I don't think I've ever said it was supported. No, this net has always been 333. We did start at FEC 1/2, but the pictures weren't good enough, so then we moved to FEC 2/3. Gonzo, best pictures we've ever seen from you. Thanks very much. John, I hope your Horsefly bike gets better soon. Jen, you're probably just a little too far for the 10 gigs, 5.7 gigs from any of my local hilltops. That's a shame. Michelle, thank you. Congratulations on ending 10 years as mayor. That's quite a stint. Okay, Let's go back round once more. Short overs, please. G0MJW to take it next from GKQ.
Okay, G0MJW. Are we working? Oh yeah, we're working. That's good. Just mute myself so I can't hear myself distracting. Not a lot else to say, I guess. So very nice to see everybody in the net. And yeah, congratulations, Michael, on 10 years as mayor. That must have been fun. I put something down on the chat regarding I expect you had a good meal to celebrate the end of your tenure. I think that's the normal protocol, but maybe not. But that's what that was about. And the software from Dave that I've been testing is working really well. It's flawless mostly. It's just managed to crash on one transition, and we don't know why, but probably something to do with the corrupt packet or something. It didn't crash the whole machine. It just crashed reception, so I had to restart it again. But it's working really well. Anyway, let's put back the test card and pass on to whoever was next. I think it was Jim, but it might not have been. So please pay attention, everybody. G0MJW.
I think it was me. I've jumped in anyway. Yeah, the signals have been absolutely perfect with me. I haven't changed. I've got the mini tune, and I'm running my Windows 10 machine. Everybody likes Windows 10. All my computers got Windows 10, but no, it's working well. No, I had no problems, and the sound's been perfect this week, which is interesting. Whether it's something I've done, I do not know. But yeah, good net. I enjoyed it a lot, and I will try and do better there, Dave. And right, I think it's over to Jim this time. So 7-3's all from G8KOE.
Okay. Just turn my volume down. There we go. Okay, not a lot from me, and we were in bed late last night, so I think I might get an early night tonight. And just thought, Barry, you'd like to see a shot of the shack. Barry G0EYF, a good friend of mine down there in Barnstable in Devon. And I'm originally from Bideford, by the way, which is about 9 miles from Barnstable. And there you go. So I don't think there's much else I can actually show you. Very good evening from me, and I'll see you all on the net next week with a bit of luck. G0DQH, just north of Southampton.
Okay, it looks like I'm back. So oh, I need to switch off the sound. We are running here the PA with Spectrum boards, and as you know, they are consuming a lot of power and amps. So we have decided to make new amplifier. Especially we want to have a portable station with a smaller dish, and to do that we've decided to go with Ampleon palette, and I've just received them. I'm sure you have seen them already. these very small boards, which are quite interesting, because when I did the calculation to go with the transistor, to do the PC board, the boxes and everything, the price of the palette is quite attractive. So I have a few here, and we have decided to do this new amplifier, and I hope we can have them done by the end of summertime, so we can try to yeah, well, I understand the message, but I've been in contact with a few guys which are using them, and no, the VBS2, they work very nicely, but they need to be modified, and mainly they have thermal, they have, how do you say that in English, thermal resistance, which need to be taken out. Yeah, I've already speak with G7 NTG, okay, and I've been in contact with 2 German guys which are use them for almost 2 years, and an Italian guy also, and they run without any problem. But you need to modify a little bit, as I said. You need to take out thermal resistance, which makes a problem. So okay, to fix them, we are lucky because we have friends which are run a mechanical shop. So we have designed a copper base, and it's going to be fixed on top of it. And then on the standard, yes, you will get a few articles from me. You just start to do the the design. So when it's done, yeah, definitely we can have an article on that. Yeah. 11 palette would be good for a portable. Yeah, it's exactly the idea, is to have a portable station with a small dish, and for that we need a little bit of power. So it's what I'm going to work with my colleagues in the coming week. No, 28 volts. 28 volts. Maximum 32, that's correct, yeah. So we'll see what we get with that. And 28 is yeah, exact. We can do it with car battery and without too much problem. Yeah. Well, I'm using for my portable station, I'm using battery for the Clarks. You know the Clarks, electrical Clarks. They have battery which are different from the battery for your car. They are designed to give you over a long time constant tension. So use this type of battery, and it's quite nice. And I've also about 2 meter photovoltaic panel, which give me 5-6 amps when it's really sunny in 12 volts. So that give me quite a good autonomy in portable on top of the mountains here in Switzerland. Okay, so that's all for tonight, and thank you for the message regarding my your job. Yeah, that was 10 years of it, but I did 30 years. It was 10 years I was a secretary, and after 10 years I was the finance minister also. So I've give quite a good time of my spare time to the community. So now it's time to hand it over to somebody else. Okay, free power and so on. Yeah, exact. And the panel is quite interesting. It's quite an interesting panel, if I have just another minute, because the rendement, how do you say that in English, rendement, goes down very quickly if it is not very sunny. So in fact, this panel, they have included in it a power switching, which uplift the tension, and that even if it is not too sunny, I get the 12-14 volts nicely. Okay, so good evening to everybody. This is Hotel Bravo 9 Delta Uniform Golf. Pass the picture and mic to Mike 0 Delta Tango Sierra. Good evening, everybody.
Click, click. You can hear my switch, can't you? I'm going to have to automate that. Yeah, I'll come from the other side of the shack now. I have to do a KLB here and rotate around. It's too far around. But yeah, thanks, Michael, and yeah, congrats on all those years. Good effort, definitely. That's super. Solar panel, yeah. Someone commented that to me for my portable setup, but like Mike says there, it always rains on portable outings, so like nearly every time, so it's always cloudy, so that's not great. What else was I going to mention? I noticed, well, I put the picture up of in the shack here, and there was one comment, well, one thing. Does anyone have any ideas how to get these knobs off here? On the spectrum analyzer, there's 3 knobs, and they've got grub screws in, and the grub screws are locked solid. I need to dismantle one of, well, at least 2 of them switches. The attenuator one, no, the attenuator one is okay, it's just the actual indicator part, but it's the bandwidth and the span and dual knob, and I can't shift it at all. Both of the grub screws are locked solid. Lubrication doesn't seem to have done anything, so I tried to get them off about 3 or 4 years ago and I couldn't do it, and now I've lost all but a few spans now on the switch, so heat up a screw via the Allen key. It's possible. It's quite deep though, it's like 15 mil into the knob, so I don't know how to do it. It's also hard to get, yeah, it's a HP. It's 8569B. So I thought I'd mention that just in case anyone has got any ideas. I've snapped 2 Allen keys trying to get them out. And one of them just twisted round, so yeah. Yeah, it's going to need a bit more. It's going to be a big job, I think, that one, unfortunately. But it's going to have to be fixed soon. You can't get the panel off to get to the switch without taking the knob off, Mike, so it's all hidden away, so you can't get in to kind of see what's wrong with it without taking the knob off the switch. I've squirted some switch cleaner in, but that doesn't work. It doesn't physically move anymore. It's like 3 positions it moves to and it just stops, so there we go. Anyway, the only quick thing, I know Dave commented it about it being quick there. Let's just switch to the other camera. Where's the mouse gone? That's a project I started about 3 years ago. Arduino, got a driver chip to drive the relays, Max 485, and then just twisted pair. That was to go outside to control my amplifier, PTT lines and fans and things like that, and power supplies, but hasn't been done because I already control all the dish via RS485, so the cable's there, just need to add that in, so I dug that out. Okay, but at the moment that is the control box I use for everything that's outside, and you can see there I'm using 77s for 2.4. So I built this probably 12 years ago, I think. That just switches between the monitor voltages coming back from the different PAs. So it's all analog. That was before I kind of delved into pick code and things. So, yeah. There we are. Right, that's enough from me. We're over time anyway. But, round 2. What's the TTL chip? I think it's 2003 or a 2803. 2803. G4HIZ is next. I'll pass it round to you, Jam. M0DTS in the group.
M0DTS and the group, G4HIZ returning. Yeah, actually, Rob, that switch, I have the 8569B as well, and when I got it, I was told that the wafers, I think, had basically had a piece put between them to lock them, because this is a common fault that they seem to become disconnected in some fashion. Anyway, right, just a quick look inside the transverter. This is my 5.7 gig transverter. I actually built it 9 years ago, and it was built for narrowband use. So it's got a YIG oscillator in there, and it produces quite a good phase noise, about -80 or below, actually, at about 1 or 2 kilohertz offset. And in the last week, what I've done is installed an OCXO in it, because originally I had an external reference feeding in. So there's a Bliley 10 megahertz OCXO in there. It takes 2 minutes to warm up, and then it's within 100 hertz forever, really. So that's it. Controlled by a PIC 16F690, and I've got a wafer switch. Sorry, I've got a selection switch which enables me to select different segments of 5.7 gigs, and one of the selections is actually a sweeping function, so it acts as a sweeper. Anyway, that's what I thought I needed 9 years ago, and it works fine with the DATV now, so that's what I'll use when I go out portable. Just one other point, I was busy last week on another thing. My car developed a fault, not really radio related, but I couldn't believe what happened. I started the car, drove a bit, stopped again, it wouldn't start, and eventually found out that the cable going from the car battery down to the solenoid had completely corroded through. It was completely green. The cable was about 10 mil square size, very heavy, and I guess the engine being a vibrating part and the cable being fixed to the side of the car must have eventually broken the insulation, let some water in, and I guess having 12 volts on it continuously, effectively, a bit of electrolytic action or something, and it completely went through. So I got hold of a former jump lead and added a new section, soldered it up, and put a couple of layers of heat shrink over both ends. Anyway, took me about an hour to fix it once I'd taken the bits off. Okay folks, well, I'll say 73s all round, and look forward to seeing you on the net next week. So G4HIZ now is signing and passing on to, I'm just looking at the list, that's John.
Okay, hopefully that's it. I've just turned the chickens off because the system crashed a few seconds ago. I hate Windows, I really do. Anyway, yeah, not too much more to add really. One thing for you, Dave, I just thought of. What's the difference between the code on the ride and the port stand, as to perhaps have a look at that to see why you've got crashes and not getting crashes, or what else is running, etc. Can't think of anything else. No, I'm starting to fall asleep now. I've been up since 2 this morning, and I probably should have been in bed a couple of hours ago. Anyway, right, I shall wish you all a very good night. Thanks everybody for coming up, and Dave, etc., for running the net. Oh, that was the other thing, sorry, very quickly. I would love to stream but I don't think my PC's up for it, mate. I really don't. I may, if possible, be able to set something up with a Raspberry Pi at a last resort, but yeah, I just would not want to chance this PC. It's yeah, it's going to end up in a bin soon. Anyway, round to Noel. G8 GTZ in the group, G7 JTT.
GTZ. Interesting, everybody. Yes, I've got for it's on the last moment, but I think it's a very little time for working you on Icon 7 from here, so maybe one day we go up for one of those. We could potentially work at 5.7 in tower at the moment. Not much to comment on, I don't think. The advice seems to be, well, don't take as much as part. And then yeah, Mike got that over and came back to the garage day. How long it'll be free getting yeah. Oh, and yeah, as well as not streaming next week, the orders into tonight for the ATC shop, because we won't be shipping anything. We should be anything after tomorrow night. Bottom is kept some cards. And yes, I did buy another one, didn't I? I bought one with air conditioner, but on fuel. I used to feature on the front of the CQTV already. Right, I think it's around to control now, isn't it? So I'll say good night. Don't you? I'll put it on Tony. Right, I'll say bye to everybody, and I'll see you next time. Yeah.
Thank you, Noel. And you've got all jittery, Chief. Let me just kill the sound on this. So good net from everybody, and I see, John, that the hens have eventually eaten enough food to have exploded, and that's not why you'd taken them off. They just had too much food. So that's that. And what else did I forget to mention somewhere along the line? Oh, I got the information back from you, Dave, as far as the cameras are concerned, and we'll see what goes as far as that's concerned. And if you're going to come back, I haven't seen much of this ride. Is it spelled R-Y-D-E or R-I-D-E? And is it in actual fact on the forum? I hope, but I haven't seen anything of that. Anyway, we might be seeing something of our chairman from the Hornsey Amateur Radio Club in the not too distant future. He's got everything about 90% up together and is ready to transmit through Oscar. His call sign is M1 ASR, and as I say, Graham. So we'll see how things are as far as that's concerned. He took over my chairmanship of the club a year ago, and actually it was 2 years ago, and he's doing a very, very good job of it. So he no doubt will do a better job of my attempts at TV. And I mean, I'm okay at building the bits and pieces and building the gear. It's just making it work. It's just all the other bits and pieces that go with it, like that thing with the spinning bit that goes round the globe, and putting all sorts of bits and pieces in, and mixing bits and pieces. Anyway, the best I've been able to do is this switch, which puts on this test card. So I'll say 7-3, and hope to see you all next week. Bye for now. G0AZQ.
G0AZQ and the net G8GKQ. Okay, that seems to be working all right. The RIDE, RYDE as in the Isle of Wight, new project. There is a thread on the forum about it, but there is as yet no published software for it. There are 2 instances running. One is with Tim, who's written most of the software, and one is with me, and I'm doing the alpha testing. So we'll start publishing that in a month or so's time, I reckon. But maybe some dev versions before that. But it really is impressive. I'm very pleased with the way it's all going. Yeah, the C910, Tony. Cameras in Linux are not all equal. The operating system sees them, but they all output stuff differently. Linux doesn't handle cameras or audio, for that matter, very well, and that's the main issue. For a couple of Logitech cameras with adjacent part numbers had totally different output formats. They just rebadged somebody else's chip, so I have to write software for each specific one. Okay, I think that's it for tonight. Thank you very much all for coming on. It's a really good net, some lovely pictures tonight, and good to see you on again, Michelle. Superb pictures from you there. I'm pleased to hear, Noel, that you're down to 2 cars. That's brilliant. 2 non-leaky cars as well. I'll speak to you tomorrow. So I'll wind up the net. Thanks all for coming on. GKQ, closing VATC net. See you same time next week.